You know that feeling, right? When you finish a movie or a book and it just sticks with you for days. What is it that makes some stories feel so permanent while we forget others almost immediately? Well, it feels like magic, but you know what? There's actually a science to it. And that's exactly what we're going to do today. We are unpacking the art of plot. Think of this as pulling back the curtain to see the secret blueprint, the very bones that give our favorite stories their shape, their drive, and their power to stick with us. So here's the game plan. We're going to start with the absolute foundation, what plot actually is. Then we'll look at what makes it tick, the engine of the story. From there, we'll check out some classic blueprints you'll start seeing everywhere. And finally, we'll get into the fun stuff, the twists and turns that make a story truly special. Right, so first things first, what is plot? Now, it's a word we throw around all the time, but the real definition, it's a lot more specific and honestly, way more powerful than you probably realize. Okay, pay close attention to that last part, a chain of cause and effect. That is the secret sauce. A plot isn't just a list of things that happened. It's a series of dominoes. One event has to purposefully knock over the next one. It's not this happened, then this happened. It's this happened because of that. You know, the novelist E.M. Forster just nailed this with a perfect example. The king died, and then the queen died. Okay, that's just a report of events, but you add two little words, of grief, boom, suddenly you have a connection, you have emotion, you have motivation, you have a plot. So to break it down even further, think of it like this. The plot is the skeleton. It's the bare bones structure of what happens when and where. But the story, well, that's the whole person. It's the flesh and blood, the personality. It's the who, the why, and the how, with all the deep themes and feelings that make it come alive. All right, so if the plot is the skeleton, what actually makes the thing move? What are the muscles that pull on those bones? Well, that brings us to the engine room of the story and its essential ingredients. And it really just boils down to two crucial things. First, we've got causation. That's our domino effect again. And second, and this one is the big one, is conflict. This can be anything from a hero fighting a dragon to a detective chasing a killer, or even just someone fighting their own self-doubt. And let me be crystal clear about this. Without conflict, you do not have a plot, period. You don't have tension, you don't have stakes, you have nothing for the characters to overcome. Conflict is the gasoline in the tank. It's the one thing that keeps us hooked, desperate to find out what happens next. I absolutely love this quote from the screenwriter Lee Brackett because it's so visceral. It's not just about a problem to be solved. It's about raw human desires crashing into each other until something just has to break. That explosion she's talking about, that is the beating heart of a great plot. Okay, so we've got our engine and we know it runs on conflict. Now, what kind of vehicle are we building? Turns out, over thousands of years, storytellers have developed a few incredibly reliable blueprints that just work. We're going to start with one you might remember from English class, but trust me, there's a reason it's a classic. Freytag's pyramid is a model that's been used to map out everything, from ancient Greek tragedies to the last blockbuster you saw in theaters. Picture it like you're climbing a mountain. You start with the exposition. That's base camp, where you get the lay of the land. Then you begin the tense climb of the rising action, where things get more and more complicated. That leads you to the climax, the summit, the absolute peak of tension, where everything changes. After that, you've got the falling action, the easier walk down, and finally, the denouement, where you're back on solid ground and everything gets wrapped up. It just feels so satisfying. Next up, we've got another absolute giant, the hero's journey. If you've ever seen Star Wars, read The Lord of the Rings, or watched pretty much any superhero movie ever made, then you already know this blueprint by heart. You can boil it down to three main acts. The departure, where our hero is pulled out of their normal, comfy world. The initiation, where they face all kinds of trials and tribulations and discover who they really are. And finally, the return, where they come back home, but they're not the same person who left. It's so powerful because, on some level, it's kind of the story of all of us, isn't it? Okay, we've got our engine, we've got our blueprints. Now let's talk about the really fun stuff. The clever design choices, the secret passages, the unique flourishes that make a story unforgettable. We call these plot devices, and you can just think of them as special tools in a writer's toolbox. They're used to create surprise, reveal a key piece of information, or just shake things up and send the story in a whole new direction. All right, I'm about to hit you with a fancy Greek word, but I promise the concept is electric. It's called anagnorisis. This is that jaw-on-the-floor moment of discovery. It's when a character suddenly learns something that shatters their entire reality. And if you want the single most famous example in history, this is it. That one line. That single revelation completely changes the hero's journey, the story's conflict, and what the whole thing even means. That's the power of this device.
And then you've got the red herring. This is a must-have for any good mystery. It's that clue that seems so important. The one the writer deliberately dangles in front of you to make you look over there, while the real answer is hiding somewhere else entirely.
So, when you start mixing and matching all of these pieces, the blueprints, the engine, the special devices, you start to see the same kinds of story patterns pop up again and again. You've got the quest, like Frodo trying to destroy the ring. You have tragedy, Hello Shakespeare and the downfall of Macbeth. You have the classic rags to riches story. And of course, Voyage and Return, where someone like Alice goes to Wonderland and comes back a totally different person.
So here's the big takeaway. Plot is so much more than just a summary of events. It's the invisible architecture, that hidden framework that gives the story its power, its forward momentum, and in the end, its meaning. It is the engine driving the magic. So, I've got a challenge for you. The next time you watch a movie or read a book, try to look for the architecture. See if you can spot the chain of cause and effect. Find the engine of conflict, and identify the blueprint holding it all together. Because I promise, once you start to see it, you will never experience stories in the same way again.